Hey everyone, wow, do we have a treat for you today? We have Brian from GitHub, and we're going to talk about GitHub Actions. We're going to show you some awesome GitHub Actions that we like, and we'll look at some custom ones maybe we've built or you've built. So it'd be really interesting to know your questions and what CI systems you're using. I used to love, I won't mention any names, we used to love some other CI systems, but wow, when trying out GitHub Actions, game changer. Anyway, back to Brian. Brian, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do and what you're up to, because you do lots of awesome things. And while you're doing that, I'm going to paste your YouTube channel link into the chat.
Excellent. Yeah. So Eddie, thanks. I'm honored and happy to be here. I am Brian Douglas, BDoughy on GitHub, BDoughyYo on Twitter, BDoughy on YouTube as well. And yeah, I've been a developer for about 7 years now, career changer from doing sales, which, I don't talk about. But yeah, recently in the last couple of years, switched over to the full-time developer relations. And then specifically at GitHub, I do developer advocacy at GitHub. I'm focused on open source engagement, happiness. I happen to chat with a lot of open source maintainers and see what's working with them, what's working for them, and what's not working for them. And then I also do a lot of action work. So GitHub Actions being our, as you mentioned, CI/CD. Also like the sort of automation hook to be able to connect with GitHub's API and webhooks and authentication, all packaged into one feature that lives inside of your repos.
Just GitHub Actions. I mean, it's just thank you, the GitHub team. Like seriously, it's just awesome. Everyone knows I love GitHub, but Actions is gonna be one of my favorite features, definitely. And what does everyone think of the virtual setup? I was being a bit creative late last night, and I just thought I'd kind of create this little setup. I did have some animations going on, but it didn't work so well when doing a test live stream. So GitHub Actions, right? So shall we talk about what GitHub Actions is maybe, and do a bit of background before we go into some examples? So people might be familiar with CI, but maybe there are some people who aren't. So maybe we should start what is CI, I suppose, and then we can see what questions we get in the chat as well. So everyone, don't forget, put your questions in the chat. Subscribe to Brian's YouTube channel. A link is in the chat. And we also have D. Thompson here. Danny has an awesome YouTube channel. Go check out his channel as well. So CI, continuous integration.
Yeah, continuous integration. It's a term to basically add a hook, a post commit hook. Sometimes people leverage that as a part of your CI, but every time you push your code to GitHub, something happens with your code. So I think back in the day when I was engineering my first job in San Francisco, my test would take like 45 minutes to run, which I think was great at the time. I've definitely seen test suites that took over hours, a couple hours to run. But that looks like time you go get a coffee. And nowadays, you don't have to sit and wait for your test to run. Like you don't have to basically take over all your machine's processes and CPU usage. Now you can basically run your test in the cloud and continue writing code. And then so every time you push your code to your pull request, like you trigger the CI to start running and to do some other automation tools. So like Testis is one of them. Other things I like to do is like create staging environments. So that if I know I made UI changes, I can leverage that and tell the rest of the team, hey, I've got UI changes. Please click through. Let me know if they work. If they don't work, I'll go back to the drawing board. But basically, just continuously integrating your code and sort of like the agile methodology and the manifesto of like always be shipping. So yeah, that was, hopefully I explained CI to the way people can understand that.
Yeah, I think you explained it really well. And I want to just also add to that people think it's scary, it's complicated, or my project isn't big enough to have CI. I think where GitHub changes this and becomes a game changer is people can get some huge benefit by a few lines of YAML. And I'm going to show you. We're going to show you how you can just get started. And it doesn't have to be even kind of code changes or things that happen. You can actually use GitHub Actions to close stale issues that are like a month, 2 months, whatever your configuration is old. It can like put a comment in and say, hey, look, this is old. Do you still want this issue, or shall I close it? And then 5 days later, or again, whatever you configure it to, it then closes it. So it really kind of keeps a handle on your entire ecosystem, from code, from issues, from pull requests. Oh, it's just so many things it can do. And we're going to show everyone what it can do. And I'm just so excited to geek out on GitHub Actions. It is, yeah, it really, really is a game changer. It's like CI on steroids. Because it can hook into any GitHub event as well, which I think is great. People even updating an issue or updating a pull request, it can just trigger an event, and you can run them manually now as well. Brian did a video on this, I think yesterday before yesterday, and I was watching it. I was like, yes, finally manually. Not that you often do it manually, but sometimes you just want to rerun something, either to get another performance result or to do something, and you can just run it manually, which I think is freaking awesome.
Yeah, and I'm actually working on a video right now that it's like literally recorded, and I've probably been working on for 3 weeks, but it's debugging actions, which was the predecessor, or the possessor, or the successor to that video, being able to leverage the manual triggers as well as some other tools to debug your actions, and that's what I use the manual triggers for all the time.
Shall we jump into sharing my screen and just have a look at kind of some simple actions to get started, and then we can show people some more complicated one, maybe show some custom ones as well. And we can show them the marketplace, right? We were just talking, there's almost 6,000 GitHub Actions that are free and you can use with a couple of lines of YAML. And I'm just really excited to show people how their projects can benefit from it. And to reiterate to everyone watching, any questions, ask in the chat. But also, even if you're doing a front-end project and you want to run a linter and you're running that locally, or whatever you're doing, any commands you run locally, you can put on CI with a few lines of YAML, and it will just give massive benefits to your project, which I think is so important. So let's leave the cartoon layout for a moment and head over to share my screen. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Let's make it a bit bigger. Here we go. So look at that, 5,740 GitHub Actions that are free for people to use. And that number's growing all the time. I think, Brian, you were saying like a year ago, that was like at 900. I know I looked like a few weeks ago and it was like at 4,000. I was like, wow, almost 4,000. And now it's almost 6,000. And so this is just, freaking epic.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's the beauty of this is that the majority of these actions that live here in the marketplace are open sourced. So if you just want to figure out how, set up Ruby or Docker login, or if you scroll down and see some other actions, if you just want to see how they approached it, I do this all the time, because like the way I learned how to create actions with Docker is actually by finding a marketplace action and seeing how they did it, and then just copying and pasting most of my way through to figure out the rest of it.
Exactly. And there's just like, I love it how it's grouped into categories from code quality to code review. And then you can still see the number, and you can see other things. You can send notification to Slack, to Discord, whatever you want. And I mean, let's just pick I think the stale example, the stale bot one, I think is quite a nice example. Oh, I've got some of these filters. Let me remove them. Is it 2 words? I should have checked.
It might be 2 words, yeah.
No, I definitely have.
Just type in stale.
I definitely have it because I use it on our projects, and it's. Here we go. Okay, is this the one? Maybe let's have a look.
Yeah, that should be. Is that the action? That's the actual app itself.
Oh no, okay, that's not.
Yeah, so this is actually a GitHub app. But there are some.
I use it.
Stale
I can
bot was
even
the
grab
original.
it. Here we go. 1 second.
Yeah. Actually, you know what it is? The app itself is on Marketplace, but the actual action is sort of like a. So the app itself that you were looking at was a Probot application. You can actually make GitHub apps or Probot apps into GitHub Actions pretty easily with the wrapper. I've only successfully done this once. I haven't really had a need to repeat that, but yeah, the same code base that powers this also powers that. So and the beauty of that too is that action/stale, you can go to the repo directly.
So I'm just about to do actually as well to show.
Yeah.
There we go. So
and this is what I was saying about everything being open sourced.
Yeah, which I think is awesome. You can just see everything. And then there's actually an organization called Actions with a whole load of official GitHub Actions, which I think is just phenomenal. I think it's just so good. And like how simple it is to use. So close stale issues and pull requests, which I think is awesome. And the usage is literally just this. So you can give it a name, you can call it anything you want, how often you want it to run. So a lot of the actions that people use are on events like creating a pull request or doing a commit to a certain branch. But this runs on a scheduler. People probably recognize a cron, and it runs one job, which uses this actual project, and we're using version 3 of it. And then it needs some parameters. So it needs the tokens. You don't even need to create a secret, which is what I love. This is what confused me when I first saw this for the first time. I was trying to grab a token and create one, add it to secrets, but this already exists already, right? The GitHub Actions creates a token that is usable. Forks don't have access to it for security reasons, but I think it's awesome. And then you can just give it stale messages, and yeah, it will then just mark by default. I think the default is after 30 days it would close the issue of the pull request, but it gives you a notification and a comment 5 days before, and that's completely configurable. And that's how simple it is to use. I just think it's just
So
awesome.
to add to your comment about forks not having access to it, we do have a feature now to be able to allow forks to have access to your GitHub Actions. This is on an opt-in basis, so obviously understand the reasons, security reasons, and what you're actually giving availability to. But normally, I think you've messed around with Actions enough that you set on the webhook, which is pull request. If you go to pull request _target, that will give access to forks, which is a separate webhook.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's good to know. And it's still secure to do that. It's still okay.
It is okay. So like my example that I have for this is every time someone opens a fork and creates a PR from one of my projects, during Hacktoberfest, all first-time contributors get a welcome message from me. Well, not from me, it's from my bot, but basically says, hey, thanks for your first-time contribution. It's very important that this happens on forks. And then I link them to the Discord right away because I want to make sure that that first interaction happens. It happens and encourages people to join the community, even though they might have just changed a documentation change or something simple. Like I am creating opportunity for them to sort of engage and join me.
Okay, sounds good. And we've got some questions coming in now. And Daniel, who's head of DevRel at Samsung, asks, looking to build an action that can open a pull request after a user, for example, fills in a form. Can an action send a pull request on behalf of a user? I don't know if it can do it on behalf of the user. I think it's the only limitation.
Yeah. I don't think you could. Well, you could spoof it and like add an account, but I think it's going to show up still as created by the action bot. So you will be able to open it on behalf of a user. Inside of my profile README, which currently is I took it down for a sec, the action that was running it. But that action, whenever someone wants to add themselves to my MySpace page, which is what my README is, you open up an issue and then it opens up the PR for that person. Mainly because I wanted a filter between people just randomly adding themselves and me being able to have the conversation first to be like, oh, hey, I don't know who you are. Sorry, you didn't make my top 8. But that action actually opens up a PR. And I think the action I'm using, it's also in the actions org to create a PR too as well. I'm just checking to keep myself honest to see what it's called.
Love that. You're honest about being honest, which is good. Yeah. While you're checking, I'm just going to also talk about people have done some cool things with actions. I mean, I'm not just talking about notifications to platforms, not just stale bots and other bits and pieces. People have made games with GitHub Action. Yes, games. So as everyone knows, or hopefully knows, that they can customize their GitHub profile. Like for example, if I show you mine, this is mine customized, and I have my latest activity at the bottom here. This is added dynamically by GitHub Actions, but people have actually made games like Connect 4 or chess or battleships and some other games where you can click. I think it raises an issue and then the action will update the README and move items around the board. I mean, it's crazy what people have done. But anyway, enough about games. Brian, did you manage to find what you're looking for?
Yeah. So I did keep myself honest, and I actually was incorrect. It wasn't the actions org. It's actually Peter Evans. The GitHub account created this create pull request action, and that's the one I use to create pull requests on behalf of the person that opens up the issues. But just keeping in mind, it's not that person. It's the actions bot that gets attributed to the PR.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense. What's the repo? Can we have a quick look at that to make it crystal clear?
Yeah, if you went to if you go to bdougie/bdougie, so github.com/bdougie. So this is my README. So yeah, this is the README I was talking about that you just saw real quick with the top 8. there. And the way this works is you open up an issue and it adds you to the YAML file. So I have a list called, I think it's a developers.yaml. But you can see Sean has an issue open at the moment that I've failed to. Actually, it looks like very few people have taken me up on this offer, but Sean did add himself to the by opening up the issue, and then I have an open PR with Sean sitting there, adding him to the YAML file. And I'm pretty sure Sean did this while I was live on stream as an example for me.
Awesome.
But you can see the Actions bot created this.
Yeah, this is not hand done. So if we go back to the actual bot, we should see. Oh, this view has changed. Interesting. That wasn't like this yesterday on GitHub.
Yeah, there's slight UI changes or aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, you can see this is my action to basically create that markdown file. So within Actions, you can have jobs. You can have up to 20 jobs inside of one repo at a time that are running. You can also run those up to 72 hours too, which is kind of insane. But
wow,
I've seen some pretty insane actions, to be quite honest. Folks who definitely hit the size limit on how much code you can shove into a YAML. But a couple things I'm doing is I am setting up Ruby because I actually have a Ruby script on my create readme.rb. And then that Ruby script basically takes my developers.yaml, creates a markdown template. And then that's what you're seeing, the MySpace top 8. It is a markdown table. And then finally, I open up the PR with that change. And that's what you're seeing down there with the PD references action.
That's awesome. And I think, again, it's showing people that it shouldn't be scary. You can add, like I said, multiple jobs and multiple steps and do different things. And if people want to customize it further, they can do it with JavaScript. So if I take one of our community projects, which we have, let me have a look. We've got the table generator, but we also have community action. Let me pick this one, for example. This is written in JavaScript, and the way it works is we collect the statistics and we also send a welcome message back. So if we have a look, it's two files. One's a JavaScript file and one's a YAML file. So the YAML file kind of configures your action. So you give it a name and a description. Then you've got the input. So we want a GitHub token so we can update and write to the repo. And we've got some default messages, but I've just realized we say it's required, but we have a default. We should probably change the required to false because it would then just use the default one. I just realized that. So thank you everyone for helping me review this. It's like rubber ducking, right? You explain your
rubber ducking, yeah.
You explain your work and then you notice loads of holes in it. But to go to the JavaScript, which is the more interesting side, okay, so it's I suppose quite big, but it's not that big really. These are us collecting the inputs that we just saw in the YAML file. And then we're using the OctoKit to write things to the GitHub API. So we've got a footer that goes on every single one. If it's a pull request, we create this comment with it needs the owner, the repo, the issue number, and the body. So really, what the body is what we're doing. Everything else comes in from the context. So we just have that as part of the action payload. And then for pull requests, again, it's very similar. But again, the body is using the PR message body, and that's it. And it's just so you can write like really awesome actions. And I understand why people have done kind of games and other things. I mean, we've done another one here where we're actually writing statistics to our Firestore database, which we're actually moving to Mongo. But again, so we can then hopefully have some graphs of people's activity within the community. And it's not just about creating issues, creating pull requests. We're actually logging every event. So if people comment or people give a reaction, we want to consider that as a contribution because I feel that does support other people in the community as well. And there is, have you seen this, Brian? There is a repo called Awesome Actions. It's quite popular.
Yes. Actually, I know Sarah. Sarah actually works for my former employer, and also just recently shipped a pretty awesome Vue 3 course too as well. So everybody should check out her course on Front-End Masters.
Nice.
But yeah, she was early in the Actions adoption game. She also created a pretty cool, I think CSS tricks post about Actions. But yeah, this is a collection of, if you think of the marketplace as the actions of folks who want to like be professional and have like proper content and like sort of having a nice place for your actions to show up. She was ahead of the curve where she actually created this README file where folks can just submit their actions in different categories. So like if you're looking for an action to do X, Y, or Z, like that pull request action that I think was it Thomas or D Thomas asked about. Like there are going to be other examples here within this markdown that you can leverage. And perhaps you have an action that you've written, like definitely open up a PR and add your action to the list.
Oh, I might have to do that actually. I haven't added mine to here. Mine's in the marketplace, but it's not here. So maybe I'll make it a bit more general and then can add it to here because there are some awesome ones here. I think. It's great
to be honest, I don't think I've even added one of my actions to it either.
You should, and I actually have some of your stickers here with me as well. Look at this. I got this from Brian all the way from the US to the UK. I don't know if the camera will focus on that. Drawn message, nice. And then also some stickers. I should have put these taken the pictures and put them up in the corner of the screen and stuff. Next time.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing the open source hoodie as well.
Nice.
So that same sticker. Yeah, this exploring the swag game.
Exactly, the swag game is very cool. I still got a box of swag to open from GitHub, so I'll hopefully this weekend do an unboxing video on that. Quite a big box. What I love about it is
I would say that. Yeah, I was gonna say that we love the videos that you put out too as well. It's always worth sending swag to Eddie.
I have another video to do. The box is quite big and it's covered in stickers. Like it's obviously not covered in stickers, but the print is looks like it's covered in stickers that overlap, and it's freaking epic.
Yeah.
It is really, really good. So I can't wait to open it. I haven't. It's been staring at me from the corner of the room like every day, but I'm waiting for the right time to do that to make the best video. So I will do that. Yeah, there's just so many. We're still scrolling down to all these awesome actions. I mean, some of these might be in the marketplace and some might not. Some might not be there yet. So do have.
Yeah, they really spread like the like what you would like to do with your actions. Like you'll see a lot of repeats as well. But even this simply as opening up a PR, like the beauty of actions is that you get to choose your own adventure with them. So if you want to write an action to open a PR that does a certain thing, actually even a better example. So my team, we're 100% remote. We're distributed across the entire globe. My coworker is in Australia. I've got another coworker in Ireland. I've got another coworker in Chicago. So like we all don't really operate in the same time zones. So when we want to sync up on like what are we working on for the week, we have this issue that we open up once a week called the top 5. And you just list the top 5 things in a comment that you're working on this week. You link other issues to it, and then it's easier for our manager to be able to go through the one issue. Each one of us can just say, oh, you're working on this. Hey, I've got some information that will help you. So I have an action that runs on a cron once every Sunday, because in Australia, my Sunday is their Monday. Yeah. So every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. my time, an issue gets opened that says, hey, everybody, top 5, ready to go. Please enter what you're working on this week here. And just like clockwork, everybody gets to mention. We all are assigned to the issue through automation. When we wake up on Monday morning, we just write our top 5. Or usually what I do is copy and paste from the previous week because I haven't completed all my task.
Love the honesty.
And then, then you're off to the races. And then on what happens on Saturday morning is that issue gets closed through automation as well. So no one's opening up the issue. No one has to remember, hey, no one up top 5. I forgot to add it. No one knows what I'm working on for the past 6 weeks. Like it's just like clockwork. Everybody responds to it. Everybody adds their stuff to it. And it's all powered by a GitHub action.
That's so cool. I love it that you're kind of eating your own dog food. I think that's just epic. And I just think that's so good. I've got so many ideas I want to run on GitHub Actions. I really do. I just keep thinking of ideas all the time. I'm writing them down, and we'll probably do live streams on working on them. Another one that we've recently added, actually I say we, my community did it. I can't take credit for this. So my community out there, just big shout out to you all for doing such awesome work. They, if anyone's new to GitHub Actions and wants to have a practice, I noticed that one of our repos does not have the action that the rest of them do. So if this is our organization, this is our kind of community organization, and I think our website doesn't have the stale bot action. So what you would do is actually you can go to one of our other repos, for example, in the organization like EddieBot, And if you can go to .github workflows and find the stale.yaml and literally just copy and paste that, create a pull request on, I'll share a link to this website, to this repo, sorry. And then you've got a green square for your contributions, probably like 2 or 3 green squares because you've got the commit, the pull request, etc. And then you can, that will help towards your Hacktoberfest. But do try and understand what you're adding rather than just copy and pasting. And you get a green square for raising the issue to do it as well. And have a look. And any questions, let us know. There was a point I was making to what I was saying. I've now lost it. Got carried away.
Yeah. But I think maybe your point was it is open source. So everybody has the ability to contribute to it. And I think the beauty of Actions too as well, the fact like if I really can hammer down on the open source thing, and I really tried to push this with my engagements with Hacktoberfest, is that Actions are like ready and available for you to like make meaningful contributions to. And the beauty of it, like the one that you showed, it was like 1 page of JavaScript. So yes, that's 1 page of JavaScript, maybe not as complicated, but that means that if you want to add an extra feature to it, and that's what I was talking about, choose your own adventure. Like if my issue once a week open up your top 5 issue doesn't fit your use case for your team, like you can actually fork it and then have your own action that does the same thing, which is what I did. I actually forked that issue from another team at GitHub. So I didn't quite like the way they did theirs, so I changed it. I added my own node module to basically tell me what the week number is. So that way, every time the action runs, in the title, it appends the week number to it. So that way we know this is week, 40 or whatever week we are in. And then it closes that one. The next week is up. And so add some automation, write some tests for them. Like GitHub Actions being open source, it like makes it so really accessible for folks to be able to really jump in and really learn how this works.
It's true. You can just, if you see something you like, you can just go have a look and see how they've done it. And I had a few ideas of actions I wanted to create, and I found out they've been done already, which is just makes it again so much easier. And if I want to tweak something, I can contribute to it, or I can fork it and diverge completely. So what I was saying, actually, I think I was talking about Lighthouse, which is it's a Chrome. I think it's originally a Chrome plugin, and it does. Let's have a look. There's performance testing, and they wanted to use this on our websites. This was added to our website, and then we want to add also accessibility. If we still got Dan here as well from Samsung, I know they do a lot of accessibility and cutting edge stuff in the browser. So I wonder if there are any plugins that we can add on accessibility. And we do use Cypress, so I know there are some we can plug into Cypress, which then can also run on GitHub Actions as well. You can just see how all these different building blocks just all come together, and then when you start a new project, you can take the building blocks that kind of make sense. Because at the end of the day, like when you build different houses, then 99% of them is actually the same. It's just like Lego, right? I think Lego is probably even a better example, right? We could both build a house, but it'll be different, but we're going to use the similar type of building blocks to do it. And I think that's what I love about GitHub Actions. It's just these building blocks that you can just put together, and you can put multiple things. So again, if we go to the workflow, we have a community action, we have a develop action, a master action, which actually should be renamed to main. Have we renamed that branch yet? No, we haven't. We need to do that. And then we've got a stale action. So you can have these different actions, and they run for different events. So this one runs on the develop branch, and it runs for a pull request and develop against the develop branch as well. But I think we need to make that change that you were talking about for the fork_pull request. I have to have a look at that afterwards.
Yeah, the other thing too as well about the actions themselves. Actually, I'm losing my train of thought too as well. Actually, I don't even know what I was about to say, but actions are great. I think that's what I was about to say.
And I think we've got a few beginners in the chat, because Nariel said, thanks for sharing. I'm a beginner. I don't understand 90% of kind of what's going on. But hopefully we're showing that people don't need to get into the code of the actions unless they want to later on. That's how I started.
Yeah.
I literally just started by what you need is a name, and it doesn't really matter what that name is. It just helps you identify it in the actions tab on your repo, the one that is up here. And then you have the on, which is the different events, and there's a great GitHub page which talks about the different events that you want to trigger the action for. And you can change this. You can have it wider, or you can have it narrower, and later on make it bigger, wider or narrower, depending on what you want. Then you just need the jobs, and you can have multiple jobs. In this name, you give it whatever you want. And then what it runs on, this is running on Ubuntu latest. And then the steps, and you can have multiple steps. So the code gets checked out. And then we set up Node with this version, and then we install the dependencies. We run the linter, and we build the project. And if any of those steps fail, GitHub Action will let us know. And that's it. So people don't have to get stuck into the coding side, which is why sometimes I'm a bit conscious about sharing the JavaScript behind it, because people think they have to write a lot of that stuff. But most of the time, that's all written for everybody already.
Yeah, and I did remember what I was going to mention is the fact that you could actually take an action and wrap it around the JavaScript library. So if you have you'd mentioned accessibility. This is not accessibility really, but there's a linter called Alex, and it actually identifies if there's any like strong language or offensive language in your copy. Nice. So you could actually take that, which is a JavaScript CLI tool, run that as a script inside of your action scripts, and then that way, every time you have a PR, it actually runs the Alex linter and then checks to see, hey, maybe you shouldn't have asked just why. Like maybe you should have suggested, a solution before you asked the question why, which is something I try to push back on a lot of people in my PRs. I did want to also point out too, for folks who are absolute beginners, maybe this is going over your head. So this is the Alex linter that you can. I haven't actually seen anybody wrap an action around this. I've seen a GitHub app around this, but you can simply run this as an action as well. I do have a Craftwork, which is a beginner tutorial for folks who want to get involved in actions. So like one, you have the lab.github.com course.
Which is awesome, by the way, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, so I recommend that for not just actions, but just for general getting started with GitHub, understanding. They have a Python course too as well. But yeah, it looks like the Alex linter you can actually install globally. So you can actually install it as a command line too as well. So I don't know how much time we have, but that would be an interesting problem to.
Maybe if we have enough time, we can try it. I think. But for our Discord channel, I created as part of our Discord bot, I got it to check for saying "Hey guys" rather than saying "Hey folks" or whatever, or "Hey everyone." And there was a bit of pushback, but people have learned and understood that it's important. And but this one seems to do that already, which I think is great. So I might kind of remove maybe my custom one and do this. But also what I really like is, like you said, this can be used for issues or comments on issues, or especially some people's comments. They might say something, maybe maybe English isn't their first language, they don't mean it, but it could come across incorrectly. So if they can just get like a polite nudge to say, did you kind of mean that? Do you mean something else? I really like this. I definitely have to have a look at it and see what else it can do if it checks this type of languages and so forth. So this is pretty cool. Oh, someone has written a GitHub action by looks of integration.
Oh, there we go.
Someone beat us to it.
Already exists.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everything already exists, which is kind of a good thing. But there's nothing stopping you in taking that and either committing new features to it, or committing or forking this one and creating your own take on it too as well. Absolutely. So when we could easily add this to one of our repos right now, and we could do a test. This is how simple it is to add this.
You can also see the pull request target, the thing I was talking about earlier. So this will actually run on forks if you use the target.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Okay, I'll have to give that a go as well. Everyone watching, if you have any questions, write it in the chat and let us know if you've used GitHub Actions before, or if you want to, or if you need any clarification on that. So I'm quite keen to have a look at using this. So I'm tempted to copy that example. I just want to see what the options are. So it was message ID. Why do I need to fill that in? What's it? This workflow runs the PR. Comment result of Alex or update comment. Okay, I might have to read through the docs to see what it actually means.
I think the ID is, I think it's appending Alex to the messages that are sent by Alex, so that way it doesn't try to run Alex on Alex. I think that might just be a recursion thing or infinite loop thing, perhaps, if I read that correctly.
So I think it's the name you're giving to the bot, right? Alex has no changes to recommend. I think actually just as you were saying that, I was just having a kind of a flick up and see. And then what is a no binary? Alex, no binary configured it. Correct default true. Let's just put it in. Let's just go with the defaults. Probably want all the patterns. Does it have any defaults? We can actually even check the code, right? It's just a GitHub project. So we could go to the GitHub project and actually check the action.yaml. We can actually see. So message ID, here we go. Default Alex recommends. Okay, got you.
Gotcha.
Default
Okay.
true, default 1, default star. So actually everything's defaults. In fact, you don't even need to have any of that, which I think is epic. So you could literally just go up to the GitHub token, copy that in, and then we've got it. Let's just do it. Let's do it on the website. What do you reckon? Let's do it. Let's do it live. Okay. So we'll go to .github. This is, everyone watching, this is how straightforward it is to add an action to your project. We'll go into workflows and let's create a new file, add new file. We will call this Alex. Oh, don't make it uppercase. And literally just paste this in, and we can rename stuff later, so I'm not worrying too much about it. And that's literally it. I'm going to keep the same node version. I'm not going to change that. It's called Alex recommends. Fine. I'm happy with that. Let's just create it. Create Alex. Okay, feature Alex action. Alex action added. I'm gonna go straight to develop, which is really naughty.
Semver already set up in your project as well?
Do I have Semver for what? For creating releases? No, I don't.
Yeah. I was just looking at your commit structure with the feet.
Yeah, I don't yet. Yeah. No, not yet. I want to go straight to develop. Should we live dangerously?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, because we can do a follow-up pull request to see the content if it gets flagged.
If it's on pull request target, though, does that mean I have to create a pull request to trigger it, though?
It will work on pull request or a forked pull request. But yeah, it won't. So this won't actually activate just by committing to the develop branch.
Okay, I'll create
this will activate to. Yeah, so if you create a pull request, you'll see.
Here we go. I think pull request is more realistic, I think, for people watching as well. So let me put a link to the action as well. Here we go. I actually used to Alex. Repo. I should raise an issue. Actually, anyone watching who wants a green square, can you go raise an issue on this repo and say add Alex as an action? Oh, no, that's the wrong link, I think. I gave you the pull request link. Ignore that link. Let me get you another one. Remove. Eddie, pay attention to what you're doing. Right, so if someone can raise an issue to say, here we go. Someone can raise an issue on that link and say, add Alex action, and you'll get a green square for today.
Yeah, what would be a really great action is being able to leverage the YouTube API when you do like / or period issue, and then it opens up the issue for you through actions.
That would be pretty cool. The only downside is the YouTube API. That's why I think Twitch wins a lot.
I say it out loud, yeah.
Yeah, because the YouTube API is not great.
Yeah, I've only heard bad things about it, but you know, maybe they're listening. They can improve it.
Hopefully, one day. Alex action, and I'll put a link. Here we go. No, that's the wrong link. What's wrong with me? I can't even copy and paste correctly today. Like, that's pretty poor, Eddie. But I've got everyone who's pair programming with me. So when someone creates the issue, Alex has just said they're going to create the issue. Alex, do it. Let me know what the number is, or actually I will see it here, and then I can do it. So let's have a look. So let's create the pull request, and I can update this. Say closes that issue once it gets merged. So let's have a look. So it's done. It's running. We've got Cypress running as well. Oh, look at all these tests running. Awesome. We've got Lighthouse, which we need to update to have that same event trigger that you just mentioned. So we need to update that. And statistics, Cypress run. Where's our Alex one? I don't see it. If I open actions, I probably might get a better view. Alex, okay, is 108. Thank you very much for raising that. Let me edit this and say it will close 108. Perfect. Thank you. Here's the Alex action is running. So if we go to the actions tab, we can see add Alex action is running. Awesome. Let's hope that it passes. And it should comment back. I think that's the idea, right? It should leave a comment on the pull request to say yes, this is good, or suggest making these changes, which is really
Nice.
cool.
Was that a welcome action that I just saw?
That was, yes. We've got a community action that adds a welcome, and just gives some links to Discord and the organization if people want to join the organization. Oh, what's this one? This one must be Lighthouse. Lighthouse just put in accessibility 90, best practice 92, performance. Yes, we have some work to do, but it's good to know where we're at the moment and seeing where we want to go. So Lighthouse is good. It'd be great to have accessibility one on there as well. So someone else.
Yeah, it's funny because the action that I use for Lighthouse doesn't print comments like this. So I think I'm gonna be switching mine today. I like this.
Awesome. I didn't find this one. I think this was by David from Portugal in our community. I think they found this one and added it, which is pretty cool. Anyone watching? I was going to say raise an issue, and I forgot what the issue was. Accessibility. Yes, if you can add an accessibility issue to this project, and we'll find an action that does that. Okay, Alex is still running, I think. Let's have a look. Give it a moment still. I'm looking forward to seeing another comment in. GitHub Actions is usually really fast, but maybe today America's online at this time. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, you can also click through the logs and see if it's actually stuck on something.
Oh, that's true. One just completed, so I think it's still running. But let's have a look. This is the Cypress one. It might take a little bit longer, but it might get stuck on something. Okay, everything is complete. Right. Okay, if we go back, 6 are done. Cool. No comment. Is that because there's no problem? But I was expecting it to say everything is fine. Maybe I didn't add something.
I haven't used this one before, so I'm not sure what the okay case is.
Yeah, maybe if it's only there's an issue, then it puts a comment. I'll have to have a read.
Yeah.
It does say nothing.
Possibly, yeah. In my experience with the action, the app itself, it only comments on things that are not okay.
Got you.
So if you're able to type in "Hey guys" or something like that in the change, maybe that will trigger it.
Only evaluate PRs that were changed in this pull as default true. So that is true. It is checking for everything. This might actually be checking the code because I just realized it's got a glob pattern, which is looking in services.
Yeah, well, the default is just the star, but there is it's like a benefit, but also a feature that actions won't check actions. So because the only file changed was an action, it's not going to check the action.
Oh,
because otherwise you'd have this weird, I guess, loophole of where you can backdoor changes into different files. So for the most part, you cannot update actions using actions.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me see if I can update something else in the README. Let's have a look. This is actually a commit. I actually want a branch. Here we go. What can we change? I'm sure there's loads of improvements we can make to the README. Always making lots of improvements. Project names, table of projects. This is for the website. Yeah, it should list our projects. It's got a screenshot of running Cypress. Running it headless. I could actually add Alex to the project in the package.json and then run it. You can run it on the command line. You can actually run that on CI as well.
Yeah, I think a good change would just be the fact that adding in the README that Alex exists.
That's true.
Would that be some good copy to add, maybe some background on Alex or a one line?
Let's do it. So we've got table of projects. We should probably also let's add actions that run. So we can add more later, but I'll just put Alex with a link to it. Good call. So let's add this. And if someone can raise an issue that if someone can raise an issue that is add Alex to the actual code base, I think it'd be quite useful as well. So Alex, and I can even make that into a link. Well, I'd like to add Alex to the project as like a linter. I think that'd be really useful. Let me see. Feature. What's more features? More like docs. Alex action. Two docs. I don't know. Something like that. Not the best, but people can get the idea. Okay, so that's gonna run again. As it should. If I go to pull request, we should see it's running again. Okay, brilliant. And while that's doing that, I wouldn't mind adding it to the code. Oops, did not mean to show that. I wouldn't mind adding it to the code as well. I think it could be really useful. I should probably run it locally first to check that I use it correctly. But yeah, it's definitely something to have a look. Alex thing is pretty awesome. Surprised I hadn't come across it before. You like that?
Yeah, I think someone had brought it up in a workshop that I attended a couple years ago. So that's where I first learned of it.
Awesome. And what other actions do you recommend, or other tools, generally speaking? Because that's actually, I'm sure you've come across some really useful ones and really interesting ones.
Yeah, if you wanted to get the open source repo, I could just go down the list of the ones I'm using there, because that's I tend to be overusing actions in that project, to be quite honest.
You can never overuse actions, I think. Open spelt like that.
It's a spaced sauce. There you go, first one. This project itself, yeah. So I've got this project, and then I have got a template repo too as well. The way open source runs is it's powered by a repo. That's all. So if you get the goals template, open source itself it's a project to find your next open source contribution. So you're able to store repos, so you can track them and sort of like leverage it as a CRM. That's basically the sort of bread and butter. But if you go in the actions folder, the workflows folder for this project, what happens is you end up creating when you sign up for open source, it actually clones this repo into your org. And then it basically takes all the projects you're storing and it caches them. So I've got a cron job that's set up to basically take all the issues that get opened up in this repo. So it's kind of tricky to explain, but basically every repo you store gets stored as an issue in the repo. So that's all your data is this GitHub issues. And then I take those GitHub issues and create a JSON file. And that's what's happening from line 26 down. And the way I'm doing this is I'm using an action called GitHub script, which allows you to write JavaScript with OctoKit as well. So the same JavaScript that you saw in your action, I have it directly in my YAML, which is, it's kind of like my go-to way to test out actions really quickly.
Actually, I think I stole my example from yours, because this looks very familiar. And I remember seeing this and I remember thinking, I'd rather have this in a JavaScript file. So I think I just literally copied and pasted this out and put in a JavaScript file and called the JavaScript file. But it's this looks pretty neat, I think. It does look pretty good.
And I haven't got around to migrating this to a JavaScript file. Like most of this needs to be in its own file, which will make it more reusable. Because I do reuse this pattern in other places for this sort of like caching data from GitHub. I originally got this idea from the GitHub Hackathon of all places, because we were doing the same thing in the hackathon, because everything submitted in the hackathon was a GitHub PR. But yeah, this is that action, the power. Literally, your database is powered by GitHub issues this way.
I have a serious question. You had a GitHub Hackathon and I wasn't invited. What? That's just
it
cruel.
Was back in February.
In February.
Yeah.
Next one, I'm expecting an invite. Look, I'm even wearing a kind of a GitHub t-shirt and everything. People might think I work for GitHub.
The hackathon, it was our first party hackathon that we've done at GitHub, I think, in a long time. We did some earlier in the GitHub lore, like early years, but this is the first one in a while, and the focus was GitHub Actions. And as I mentioned at the top of the this conversation, that we only had 900 actions. The only reason I know that number is because we were actually driving adoption to create actions early this year.
Wow, so in February you only had 900 actions, and now they're almost at 6,000.
Well,
that's crazy.
We had more than 900 at the time we shipped the hackathon. At the time we started planning it, it was about 900. So that was like November of last year.
That's epic. And we got a question about the cron job. It's just like a Linux cron. So I would suggest Googling a Linux cron, and then it will be exactly the same as that. And there are different ways you can do
Yeah.
things. So
I
I
think
do.
if you have a cron guru, the site, it actually gives you a sandbox to test out your crons.
Oh, did not mean to
So
do that.
um, if you don't know how to like this, most people don't know the syntax for crons.
No, I
So
don't
I
remember. I
Google it
have to
every
look it
time.
up every time. Exactly. Here we go. Cron Guru. Okay, brilliant. So it even kind of gives you wild and awesome. I like that. You can test it out. It tells you when it's going to happen. That's epic. Cron Guru. That's cool. Other thing I was going to have a look at was I just saw this sync to upstream. This sounded quite
Yeah,
interesting. So I know a lot of people have
this is something I've
trouble.
wanted. Yeah, I've wanted this for such a long time. So I finally, and honestly, this took so long to try to get to work, and I finally got to the point where I knew what I was doing. But basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. You fork a repo, and you want to stay in sync with the upstream. So if I fork Eddie's community, and I want to stay sync with your website, it will, and it will do it once. I think every Monday and Thursday at 7 UTC. And there's no work that I have to do to make sure that my data is up to date on my fork.
That is epic because people have asked me about this, and it's something I said I'd look into, and I completely forgot. But only now seeing this, I've realized this. So I can keep all my forked repos up to date. Freaking game changer! I'm gonna bookmark this and do this. So is this used? So it's using. Oh, it uses. There we go. So you've actually written a custom action to do this, which I think is just awesome, and now we can use it too.
Yeah, and this is if you look at that line 24, this is an actual fork of somebody else's action because
Okay.
I had not a lot of folks so I've been trying this try to fix this problem since literally since February probably. And some people have had actions that sort of do this, but I had a unique use case. So you can see I forked it and it's under my handle, which is bdougie, but also I have a branch called fork. So we didn't talk about this, but you can trigger actions based on tags, branches, and even commit shaws if you wanted to,
Wow.
just to make sure you're only shipping code that you know that you know works at that time. So like all my actions, even if this repo gets deleted, like I will still have well, hopefully if I don't delete the branch, it will still run. But at least I know it's going to run at this point.
Yeah, that is so awesome because yeah, I do update my forks manually sometimes, and it's just I forget, and when I come back to them, they're really out of date. To update them manually, so this is actually really good that an action can just run once a week, keep it up to date, and it's really generous. Is the action kind of minutes that you have is like 2,000 minutes a month. I use a lot of actions. I don't
Yeah.
get anywhere close to that. So that is
No, same. As you can see, I have a ton of actions. I've got so many examples. But like what I've noticed with people contributing to my projects, like even though they've been a repeat contributor, what they do is they delete their local version, and then they
yes,
reclone and refork every
yes,
single time they want to write new code, which is a
crazy.
part of friction that I did not want them to have.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that all my projects you don't have to do that. All you have to do is basically fetch upstream on your local version, and then start writing the code that should work.
Exactly right. It's just making it easier for them again and again. And I think I'm surprised GitHub don't have like a tick box in the settings to say kind of keep, when you fork it, keep up to date. It will eventually for sure, right? It's gonna have it eventually for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm surprised too, but yeah, it's definitely come up in conversation. It's actually a feature that I'm building. I'm actually going to be building that into open source, so that way, every time you want to contribute back to the same project, you want to contribute to, like you could just keep it up to date and sync it just by opting into it.
and one tip for everyone watching, like one massive tip that I see people making a mistake all the time, and it's actually can make your life so much easier. When you fork a project and you want to contribute to the project now or later, it's your first pull request or your second or third. Don't make any changes in the default branch. Just promise me,
Yeah,
everyone watching, don't do that because it will work the first time and you'll think it's great, but then the second time round you're going to end up with conflicts and all sorts of things to sort out. So make a branch off the default, even in your fork, and therefore the default branch in your fork you keep in sync with the upstream repo. That's really important. By upstream I mean the parent repo, and you will just save
yeah.
yourself a world of pain. Like that's my
Yeah, or
most top
even one.
question, I think.
Yeah. One more up is like if you're a maintainer, add this, copy and paste my YAML file into your project, so that way no one ever has to even think about this, and they can just continue working forward.
Oh, wait a second. I have misunderstood something. So let's do a scenario here. If I've got a project, if I had forked it from you, I would add this action to my fork. Therefore, it'll keep it up to date with you. Are you implying or saying that you, as the upstream, as the original repo, you would add it to your project, and my fork would automatically stay up to date? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So I think in the actual main open source repo, I should have this set up. But the way I have it running is that you can do conditionals in the repo. So I am not running this on my project, but everybody gets this automatically whenever they fork my project, if that makes sense.
Oh, of course.
With the caveat.
Yes, they do. Of course, they will have it's a fork, right? So they'll have this containing. So they won't even have to add the action. That's a freaking game changer. I didn't even think about that. You're right. They'll fork the project and they'll have this. Every maintainer has to have this. I have to add to all our projects.
And I noticed a bug too that should say goals template, not open source.
Oh yes, it's true. Right. Let me share it. Let me share a link. Let me share a link in the chat, and someone can raise a bug and say this is the wrong upstream repository. So raise an issue, get your green square, and if you want to fix it, you can send a pull request to the project. And is this part of Hacktoberfest? This repo?
This repo is not, but I can add it if someone needs one more PR.
I think that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great, because I think that would be a great PR for someone to fix this. It's a bug, it's an improvement, and anyone else watching wants to get some more green squares and some more pull requests for Hacktoberfest, I would love this added to all our community projects. And we have quite a few. I think like 7 or 8 or something. So someone can raise, different people, share the green square love and raise an issue on each of these projects in our community. I'll share the link as well, saying to add Brian's awesome. I've lost the tab now. I'll find it somewhere. We will find it. Here we go. Awesome. Keep the forks up to date, because I think that's just great. It makes it so much easier for everybody else. So they don't have to do the fetch and all that sort of stuff. They'll just literally do a pull on their origins, on their forked version, and I'll bring down all the code, which I think is just awesome. So this has made my day. I was really looking forward to this live stream anyway, and seeing what questions people have and all that. But knowing that people who fork my project can keep their fork up to date easily, it's just like, again, it lowers the barrier to entry for the community. So I think that's just great. So yes, we've got about 7 or 8 issues to be raised on our community projects, and 7 or 8 pull requests as well, which is going to be basically using this and just changing the upstream repository to the repository that is on. So have a look. That's awesome.
Excellent. While you were talking, I created the issue, marked it good first issue.
You got Hacktoberfest as well. Cool.
Yep. Up for grabs.
Perfect. So if anyone wants to get that Hacktoberfest pull request, there's quite a few. I think we've kind of almost given around about 10 in total. So that's pretty cool. That is an awesome action. Okay, Ryan, you're on a roll. What else have you got for us? Like, this is golden.
Yeah, so if you went to the open source repo, there's one I love talking about that I wrote a blog post about. So open source is a React project, and I have React components too as well, naturally. So I have an action that basically updates my storybook file, my storybook design system. So if you click in open source, yes.
Could you briefly talk about what Storybooks is for people who don't know what that is?
Yes. Yeah, so Storybook is it's basically an open source design system for folks who want to sort of have a sandbox to play around with their components. Storybook is not React specific anymore. It's actually, it could be Vue, it could be Angular, it could be Svelte. But basically here you can see your design components that are written in JavaScript. in the flesh, I guess in the flesh, quote unquote, in the pixels, to be able to sort of test out and like be able to interact with them. So if you want to see some sort of UI changes in a sandbox, this is what it looks like. Shout out, I do have an open issue about dark mode. Actually, someone's already assigned to it. But this is a great place to like test things like dark mode or test things like what happens in responsive design. So what I have is an action to basically say, whenever I change any UI changes, I want to also update this completely separate site. And the way I do it is I use a GitHub action to do that. I think it's called Storybook. Yeah, storybook.yaml. Yeah, so this basically on line 5, I'm basically watching to see if there's any changes in my components folder or my stories folder. And if there are changes, I will run just specifically the Storybook command. So if you know Storybook, if you don't know Storybook, that's fine. But basically, there's a separate build command separate from your main website or your main web app that builds those design components. And then what I'm doing, then I'm running that on line 18. And then what I'm doing on line 20 is I'm deploying that using, now this looks like I'm deploying it to GitHub Pages, which you can if you want. And I was doing for a while, but now I'm also deploying to Netlify. And so I just basically circumvent that action, which is supposed to be for GitHub Pages. And I'm basically just watching that branch. So I have a GitHub Pages branch. Actually, my branch is called Storybook Static, to be honest. That's what it's line 23 is. Netlify is watching that branch. So if you went design.opensauce.pizza, you'll see the live version of my design system. And it's just all automated.
I think another thing that you pointed out, just to touch on very briefly, is you're deploying via an action. So we've talked about running linters, running automated tests, running checks and Lighthouse and all sorts of things. But also, yeah, people can easily deploy to Firebase, to Azure, to AWS. I know I deploy to various places as well, just with a few lines of YAML config, which I think is just epic. I forgot to mention that before. So I just think that's so cool. I need to play with storybooks more. This does sound really interesting. Last time I looked at it, it was React only, so it's changed a long time now that it's not. Do you use it for all your projects?
All my projects. I've got a lot of side projects that open source is probably the one I sort of keep up to date the most. I think I have a lot of test projects that I no longer maintain. So I guess if you asked me like 3 years ago, the answer was yes. But this is the only project I still actively maintain a design system for.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll have to have a play and see. I'm sure after this, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos while I have dinner and on storybooks and have a look. Well, actually, what YouTube videos do you have coming out, Brian? Anything in the pipeline?
Yeah. So I just launched 2 videos this morning, actually, right before we went live. I actually had a chat with another Twitch. So I live stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Friday. And there's another Twitch streamer who also live streams a couple more times than I do a week. And I actually invited him on to talk about WebRTC. So I have a video specifically on how to get WebRTC working with the Vonage API. And then because it was such a great conversation, I actually made a second video from that conversation that's separate, which is talking about doing developer relations on Twitch. And we talk about how he got involved in developer relations, as well as how valuable it's been for his sort of career while switching from full-time engineering into developer relations. So it's a fun conversation. I recommend watch both of them. Stick around because we end up having a lot of fun at the end and messing around with the voice changers and stuff like that. But
who was that with?
Sorry, I didn't even mention that. This is Michael Jolly. He is the bald bearded builder.
Yes, that's really weird. I don't know a lot of people's names by names. I know their Twitter handles or their GitHub handles, which is just so weird. Like when the wife comes in, I'm like, "It's give me a minute. I'm just on talking to," and I say their weird name, and Sarah's like, "What? You called them that?" It's like, but that's their Twitter handle. I don't remember their name. You just see their Twitter handles in your face all the time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I always struggled with his name as well. But also I struggle with his Twitter handle because bald bearded builder is an alliteration that it's definitely a test for me every time I try to say it.
Yeah, kind of tongue twister. But that's really good to hear. I'm definitely going to check that out and see. Like, it's great to see so many people are doing stuff on YouTube and Twitch and so forth. So that is really, really awesome. Just so much good stuff. Yeah. So storybooks as well, deploying to Azure. I think if I can quickly show people, I think I'm not using Azure anymore for this, but I think I still have the deployment one in. If I just checked to show them what I loved was how simple it was to deploy. So ignoring all this stuff, the deployment step was literally this. It's probably behind my head, isn't it? It is. If I move my head that way. Literally, this is the step to deploy to Azure, to deploy a Node app. I just was testing it out. We're hosting it now on Docker containers. I'm going to move it to DigitalOcean. But this was it, literally a name, and you can write anything you want there. Say what you're using, Azure Web Apps Deploy, and then literally the app name and the token, and it just deploys it every time it gets merged into the default mainline branch. And I just loved that. It was just so straightforward to do it. Brilliant, really, really good. So what else? Have you got any other gems for us? I was looking at the clock, and we've kind of done a GitHub action. We've talked about a few. We've talked about the marketplace. I was thinking if we can, if you've got any others that come to mind we could cover, and then I don't want to take too much of your
there's
time. There's
the one that's been the focus of the last 4 action traction videos. So I run a series called Get Action Traction, and it's really, there's a lot of beginner content, but this is like content that's one step above. Like maybe you have CI running in Actions, but you want to do other things. So I've been building this action called Take Action, which there's a limitation, and it's there for good reason. Where if you have someone that comes in the community wants to work on an issue, like use Hacktoberfest as an example, they can't assign themselves an issue. Like you as the maintainer have to assign them to the issue. And so I created an action so anybody can take the action, take action to assign themselves.
Love that.
So so this is definitely check out the sort of story of how I built it using Docker. I use a bash script, and then I've migrated it into a composite run step action, which is if you aren't really knees deep in actions, you haven't heard that word yet, but I did a video on that as well.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be migrating it into different forms for the same action. Hopefully this to take people through the whole list of how you can make actions for such a simple action. And I would say this action's been so nice because what I do is people come in and they say, hey, I want to take an action, I keep saying take action. I want to take this issue. And so I can respond with the save reply and say, hey, thanks for your interest in contributing. Read the contributing MD to find out how to assign yourself to the issue. So then I basically forced them to read the contributing MD to learn how to take this issue. And then they just read all these sort of information I need them to read to make sure they know how to interact with the community of open source.
Wow, that's really good. I'm just thinking how many improvements I can make to our community. There's me getting all excited saying, hey, look, I'm inviting people to the community. We've got 213 on the community. And I'm thinking, great, but there's so much more. I want to lower that barrier to entry. So I really like having that, a better contributing guideline. And I've not forced them to read it, but kind of encouraging them to read it if they want to assign that issue to themselves. Also, I wonder if after a certain amount of period, you want to unassign them from it if they've because I've found sometimes people hog them or they get busy, not intentionally. They say, I'll do this, but then something comes up and they disappear for a month and it kind of blocks the issue. That's my only kind of concern.
Yeah, so it's funny because you're writing my videos for me. I will be making an action to unassign issues. So you mentioned Stalebot a couple of times.
Yeah.
So imagine Stalebot, but stale issues. So if you go 2 weeks or 4 weeks and no movement, the way I'm going to write this, and I haven't wrote this yet because Hacktoberfest was very intense for me and doing a bunch of stuff. But basically go in the issues that have been assigned after so many weeks. If there's no movement, what I recommend everybody in the contributing MD is link the issue to a PR. Okay. And if it's not linked to a PR after a certain amount of time, the action will basically just run on a cron and say, hey, there's no movement. Are you still working on this? And then it requires them to respond back with an update. And there's no update. It nicely unassigns them, which is all basically using all the same logic as Stalebot. The only difference is instead of closing the issue, you're just unassigning it.
I love that. So when are we getting that? That just sounds epic. I need that in my life.
Hopefully the next couple of weeks. I'm winding down on my engagements. Actually, this is my last engagement for the week, and I have one more conference talk next week. So I do have a lot of time to sit and write a lot of code. So I'm hoping to crank through all my ideas. and prep a couple of more videos in the next couple of weeks. So you should see it like sometime early November. I'll have a video and I'll have the action. I'll do hopefully a blog post about it too as well.
That sounds awesome. Will you live stream you building it, or will you just record? Will you build it and then kind of do a video on how you built it?
I need to get better with content. Like I have a good plan of when I live stream, but I don't always have a plan of what I'm live streaming about. So my hope is to, as I start winding down some of this Hacktoberfest craziness, is start to plan out what I'm working on. I just started. I got designs back for my new website, BW Live. So I'll be focusing the next week on improving BW Live itself, UI and everything. And then I'll start improving that experience there. So everything I do, YouTube, Twitch, blogging, will be hosted in the one site. But yeah, usually my schedule has been Tuesdays. I end up using either I build a Twitch integration or improve one or build an action. Friday mornings, I contribute to open source. Mostly try to do not my projects, try to contribute to somebody else's projects. And then Friday afternoons, I tend to sort of free for all. I'll build actions, I'll just chat, or we'll have a guest on.
I love what you do. I love the content you create. I do have a slight issue though with it. If you don't mind me saying, it's too late in the evening. You like come on, I'm about to go to bed, and then I get notification like, come on, Brian, it's like 11 or midnight. Like, I want to watch this, but I can't. It's too late. And I always try and catch up on them. But you know what it's like? I think either a live stream, I kind of want to be there for the live stream. I do want to kind of get involved in the conversation as much as I can. And when you're kind of watching the next day, I get interrupted with bits and pieces. And then I never actually end up completing all of them. So, I think you should try and do it maybe early, more before work. Yes, why don't you get up early and do it before work?
So my before work Fridays, I've been pretty inconsistent with those, but those would be better your afternoons at that point. It's just the problem is waking up before work, I always wake up too late, so I don't do them. But I'm trying to actually, as of Friday, I will be moving it up earlier because a lot of my community actually is not here in California. There are other places in Europe, so I am moving that afternoon streams earlier a tad bit. But I do have some like future plans that I'm hoping to do. We actually just booked a guest for next month where we'll talk about GraphQL, specifically OneGraph. I use a lot of GraphQL for including open source. I use a lot of GraphQL for that. And then I have some musical programmers as well. So I tweeted out not too long ago asking for open source musicians. And so we're going to have some musical guests in the next, hopefully at the end of next month, we're going to start doing a monthly pizza party is what we're going to call it.
Pizza party. Oh, that sounds exciting. You're going to send pizza to everyone who's watching.
I'm exploring that idea. I'm not, you might have been tongue in cheek about it, but no, I've been exploring it.
Really? I was joking. I was completely joking.
No, you could actually create Domino's gift cards through the API. So
seriously,
I haven't done the time to actually write the code. But it is a possibility. I need to sit down and write it.
Nice. And I've just had an absolute mental block. What was the GitHub action that you mentioned, I don't know, a few minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, that I absolutely loved and wanted to add to all our projects? It was the fourth one.
Take action.
Take action. I was going to make a note. One? Yeah, which one was the take action one? That was the one that's coming up in a couple of weeks, right?
Well, this one actually, so take action you can only assign issues. So that one exists. So BW/take-action. And then the fork upstream that lives as a workflow that combines a couple of their actions together.
Okay, I'm going to write these down because I will forget. Action ideas, and then we can create actual issues for each of these as we do them. I'm just going to kind of make a note. So it was keep fork up to date. It's just an epic one. It was take action, which is assigns issues to non-members, I think you were saying, right?
Yeah, assigns non-org members to issues.
Non-org members. Okay, and then the one that's not out yet, so I'm going to kind of say these are available, but this third one is not available yet.
Unassign,
Unassign.
Which I'm more than happy if anybody in the community or yourself wants to jump on it and provide your take. That's the beauty of actions too as well. You're only writing, like you write a handful of lines of JavaScript and throw it out there and see if it if it takes on its own legs or in the community. But the fact that they're open source is people can build on top of them. So like we don't have to like leapfrog each other, but like we could all have a nice co-location of actions that solve problems. I can use your actions, you can use my actions, I can use Dan's actions, whoever's actions that are making them. And like I always learn from other folks. So if I see a cool action, like I try it out. If it doesn't work exactly the way I do, I like it. I usually fork and do a PR and ask questions about it. Actually, the original action that I found that was seeking the upstream, it was created by Fork Bacon, and it was called Fork Bacon. That was the original one I saw.
Fork Bacon.
And it was like, this was back, actually this came in the hackathon actually. And it was like a naive implementation, and it like sort of worked, but it didn't actually work to my use case. And I opened up an issue, asked them, hey, this doesn't work. I don't quite understand Bash that well to know where the failure is. And they were just too busy with work, so they never got back to me. So then I ended up sort of making my own like Borg of a new action that works the way I need it to work. But my intention is to hopefully go back and clean that up eventually.
I think, sometimes I find other people do clean up for you as well, which is really, really useful. I just, it's a great way for them to learn as well, too.
Yeah, indeed.
Assign issues to non-org members. It's called take action. There we go.
I'm impressed at your ability to open issues while on stream. Like, for whatever reason, I am like, I cannot focus enough to even type out cohesive words while streaming.
These probably make sense to me now. When I read them tomorrow, they probably won't, but hopefully just enough to kind of nudge me.
Yeah, you have to rewatch the stream to figure out what you were typing.
Exactly.
Which is what I have to do all the time.
But it also helps having a second person on, because I think when you're by yourself, you don't want a lot of silence, so you are trying to do a lot more. But when someone else is on the stream, I find it easier. So yeah, if you ever want anyone to join any of your streams when you're just trying to figure stuff out, let me know. I'm more than happy to kind of gate crash, and you can do all the hard work and the heavy lifting, and I can just I don't know, play the Joker and just keep people entertained when you're thinking and those cogs are turning.
Excellent. I will take you up on it. Once I get that earlier stream set up, and we'll get BW Live revamped. We will. Yeah, my goal is to hopefully start doing a monthly cadence of having folks come on and teach me things.
Yeah, I do that as well, which is awesome. I had Debbie come from Nux, and I have Gwen who comes from Vue, and it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We David from Portugal is Jose, and in the YouTube chat has just joined, and that's who I was talking about, who did the Lighthouse, added Lighthouse to our website, which is awesome.
Excellent.
And actually, we might be doing a live stream together this weekend, playing with Feather.js, as you want to move. Our actions are writings directly to the database, which we don't want to do. We want to have an API between it, so therefore when we make changes, we don't have to make changes in like 5 different places. So we're looking about doing an API. We might just do it with Express, but we're thinking maybe using Feather.js. I don't know if you've used it before or know anything about it. We don't.
No, it sounds familiar, but no, I've never used Feather.js before.
Feather.js. Okay, so we're gonna have a look and have a play, and we'll do that at the weekend in a live stream, and hopefully we can get Cucumber working with it as well to write some automated tests. But it does look pretty interesting. You can do a lot of real-time stuff connected with Mongo or Postgres. So yeah, that is on our list of things to do. But before I forget, while Dougie's just having a look at that, just want to say, everyone, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and definitely subscribe to Brian's channel as well. Let me paste a link to his YouTube channel in the description. His link is in the description below. Let me paste a link to his channel in the chat. It's already in the description. It's been a long day.
Yeah, what time is it over there in the UK?
Dinner time, like 6:30.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well, thanks for skipping eating to hang out with me.
No worries. Always a pleasure geeking out with you. And I'm sure we could go on for hours, and that's purposely why I did it, like to end kind of around dinner time. Otherwise, I'll like hog your time for like 2-3 hours, and it's not so fun to do that. I'd rather have like smaller sessions, and because you can get feedback from the first session, and then kind of you can tweak the second one. I actually made a big mistake today and didn't have a drink next to me, so that's why I'm kind of like dying a bit. And all these lights producing so much heat. I hope everyone watching, if you have any questions for GitHub Actions, let us know in the chat and we'll talk about it. I'll try and keep Brian around for another 10 minutes or so, but I think he's probably lunchtime for you there, right?
Yeah, not quite. I just finished breakfast, so I got another hour or so before I think about lunch.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I will also I'll make sure to. How do I find your Discord too as well?
Yes,
actually, I just found it on the.
It's on the website and it is in the description below. But I can paste the link as well if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, we have.
Yeah, I just found it.
Should be able to do this! ! Discord, and the bot should reply in the chat. I don't know if you got the chat open or not.
Yeah, I do. There we go. Yeah, because I can make myself available if people have questions too as well in the Discord. I'm a fan. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of Discord.
Me too.
I didn't quite know what to do with it when I first got involved, but yeah, no, it's been it's been fun. Like so last week we ran the Open Source Contributor Summit, which was an idea I've had for a long time, and it was nice to finally get that off the ground. And yeah, so the focus was really just getting people excited about open source, but also educate them on how to contribute. So we had maintainers as well as contributors who had stories to share about their first time contributing. And it went off with the hitch. And I also have a second channel, which is the open source YouTube channel. And all the videos are already up and live for anybody who wants to
up there already.
That.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. YouTube. I think I started watching some of those actually. Open source. Yes, see, I'm subscribed. I got those notifications.
Great SEO.
Exactly.
But yeah, you can see all the stories up there, and then I do have my first time contributing to a Go project, which is the video with the right in the middle, my first contribution. So yeah, this channel I usually use for updates on open source, but since we had an event, I also threw all the event videos up there as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I did watch. Yeah, I did watch. I can't think of her name now. Ruth's one here.
Ruth,
I did watch that live, and then I need to catch up on. I can't think of her name. They're in our community as well, so it's awesome that I love it when communities overlap. I need to go through and watch all of them. I think as well. Do you have them on the playlist? Can I just hit play and just have them go? You do.
Yeah, it should be a playlist. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna buffer that up now. Hit pause, and then if I can put that right at the beginning, and that's what I'll be watching as well. That's awesome. That's really cool. And they're a good length as well, kind of like between 10 and 30 minutes, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, and that was the intention was just really let's just share stories. Like some projects they ended up sharing some code and talked about how to sort of get started there. But also I think Koppel from Superbase, which is the open source version of Firebase, which you should definitely have him on. He's a great chat. He's from New Zealand, Kiwi. But they ended up starting an open source project during the pandemic. So they got accepted in the YC and then got stranded in Singapore and then started an open source project and then grew the contributor base and the user base while hanging out inside.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, a Superbase, SUPA base does look quite interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's probably too early for me to use. I think it's still an alpha, is my understanding.
It is an alpha, yeah. They're still cranking it away. Yeah, definitely not ready for prime time for any sort of projects in production, but something definitely to keep an eye on for the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's going to be a game changer because I do like Firebase, but it not being open source, I have two gripes with it. One, it's not open source, and two, automated testing on Firebase is awful. And they've got an emulator, but I don't want to test against an emulator because things pass and you deploy it doesn't work, and it's That's why I like serverless on Azure as much as I didn't want to move over from AWS Lambda, but being able to run the serverless locally without an emulator, without having to install Java and all the rest, just made such a difference. So Superbase is quite interesting. How you can plug it to different databases as well, again, is super interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite a game changer. I mean, I think 2020 has been a pretty sucky year, but I think things are slowly getting better. There are some positives out of it, and hopefully 2021 is going to be epic. Brian, I think I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I think that's really a good place to stop for now. Anything you would like to add before we say bye to everyone?
Yeah. You'd mentioned find me on YouTube if you have any questions. Like, so we talked about actions. So if you have actions or videos or questions, definitely ask me. I'm pretty available on Twitter. I joined the Discord too as well. So I'm pretty much have that thing open all day. Also check out the GitHub community forum too as well. The actions team actually sits in that forum and can answer questions directly that you have. So I've actually pointed a lot of folks who have like way more intense questions. I had an action that was like 13,000 lines of YAML, and they were wondering why they were hitting the limit. It was because it was too big. So I was able to point them to the action team, and now they're having a conversation. So if you have some intense use cases, definitely check out the community forum for those questions. But just for ideas and sort of like if you just want to basically I'll lend you my ear to see if your idea is valid, or if there's other ideas that are already out there, definitely hit me up.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much again for joining us on this live stream, talking about actions, sharing your experience and awesome projects that you do, from YouTube channels, multiple YouTube channels, definitely an S on the end, to open source communities and projects and actions. There's just, you're doing so much. So that's epic, absolutely epic. Everyone, Brian's channel is in the description below, and he is in our Discord, so you can tag him and say hey if you have any questions. But definitely, if you're new to GitHub or new to open source or new to coding, look at GitHub Actions. It makes such a difference, and you can get started with a few lines of YAML, and that started to run some of the commands you already have in your project, or to deploying to Azure, for example, as I showed earlier. But definitely have a look. It's really important, and you can slowly build on it, add more and more to it. Brian, thank you again, and we'll look forward to geeking out soon. I'm going to bring up the holding page. I'll stop the stream and I'll come back. So if you can hold on for a few more minutes, then I'll catch up with you.
Yep, sounds good.
Sounds good. Everyone, have a great morning, lunchtime, evening, wherever you are in the world, and let's chat in Discord between videos and live streams. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for all the awesome questions, and we'll see you in the next live stream that I'm scheduling at the moment. So we'll see you all soon. Bye.
See you.